The Mini lineup gets a bold update for the 2022 model year, but is the John Cooper Works the one you want? Jared here with CarBuzz.com, and today I am reviewing the 2022 Mini Convertible, but not just any Mini Convertible. This is the John Cooper Works. If you know anything about the history of Mini, you know that John Cooper was responsible for building some of the company's best racing models. So theoretically, this should be the ultimate Mini Convertible, right? Well, I'm not so sure. This convertible JCW that we're driving is quite expensive, so by the end of this video, I want to answer a very basic question. Is it worth $45,000? To answer that question, we should start off out on the road because Mini Coopers are known for delivering a fun to drive experience, and this is the John Cooper Works model, the sportiest one you can buy, so it should easily be the most fun in the lineup, right? Well, I'm not so sure. So let's talk about what you get when you opt for the John Cooper Works version of the Mini Convertible. First off, you get a bigger engine. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces more than the 4-cylinder that you get in the Cooper S or the 3-cylinder that you get in the base Cooper. The John Cooper Works produces 238 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, good for a 6.3 second 0 to 60 time if you get this convertible model. That's quick enough, but when you consider that vehicles like the Volkswagen Golf GTI and Hyundai Veloster N have about 30 more horsepower and much quicker 0 to 60 times, you start to realize that the Mini Cooper is not so great value for money when it comes to performance. Don't even get me started on convertibles like the Mustang and Camaro, which offer over 300 horsepower for less than you'll pay for this JCW Mini. We've got 3 different drive modes. You have mid, which is your base drive mode. You have green, which is like an eco mode, and then you have your sport mode. I gotta say, the engine itself sounds pretty good. Definitely has a lot of throat there. You get a little bit of pops from the exhaust on the overrun, but this is no Veloster N in terms of sound. The Veloster N sounds much louder, like a rally car, produces some amazing cracks and pops. So although the JCW sounds pretty sporty, it's not the best I've heard in the hot hatchback segment. And at this point, I should mention, while I love the engine, I'm not the biggest fan of automatic transmission Minis. I much prefer driving these cars with a 6-speed manual, which you can get if you get a JCW Coupe, but if you opt for the convertible, you are stuck with this 8-speed automatic. Now, there's nothing super wrong with this transmission. It shifts fine, the paddles are pretty responsive, but again, I'd be having more fun with a manual. But now I've got to talk about the major faults with this car, because there are quite a few of them I need to talk about. The first is that while this is the performance John Cooper Works model, we are missing a lot of things that you would want from a performance sporty vehicle like this. We do have larger brakes, which is good. However, this car is missing a limited slip front differential. That means when I go to put the power down, I can feel the front wheels kind of skip around and not really do a great job transmitting the power to the road. I can't even imagine if they would have put the up-tuned version of this engine that they have in the Clubman and the Countryman, producing about 301 horsepower. Those vehicles get all-wheel drive, which helps a little bit, but since this is front-wheel drive only, the front wheels just struggle to put the power down without that LSD. The other problem that I'm sure you're noticing on the camera right now is that the John Cooper Works suspension, we have the adaptive, even when I put it in normal mode, is super firm. The ride is going to beat you up over bumps. But despite the suspension being super firm, the chassis itself is flimsy. It has the structural integrity of a bowl of pudding. You can feel this car flexing around because obviously it doesn't have the rigidity that you'd get from having a fixed roof. And this becomes a really big problem when you start to talk about it being a convertible. So we've been driving with the convertible top closed, but I'm going to go ahead and open it to its first position to show you just one of the problems that I have with the Cooper convertible. So this is like the first position. You can open it up. It's almost like having a big sunroof. It's a very neat idea in concept. If you just want a little bit of sun and a little bit of wind and you don't want the full drop top experience, this seems like a great idea. But it's badly designed. You might think that this would be a great way to just have a little bit of wind and a little bit of sun, but I'm only going about 30 miles an hour. If I start to pick up the speed, It sucks a lot of wind in here, and you can really start to get deafened out by the amount of wind that comes in here. It's a really bad design. It almost creates like a wind vortex in here. Trust me, you do not want to drive around with the roof in this position if you're going at any speed. The next problem I'm going to mention with the roof is the visibility, because when you have it up in this position, you barely can see out of the side. The blind spots are so big. Now that would be fine if the Mini Cooper had blind spot monitoring, but it doesn't. For $45,000. This is something that you can get on a Toyota Corolla for like $25,000, but it's not standard on the JCW Mini, and it's not even optional either. Well, at this point you might be thinking, blind spots, just put the roof down. That'll completely fix it, right? Not so fast on that. So I'm gonna put the roof down now, which can be done at like 20 miles an hour or below. And you might think that, okay, now that the top is down, there shouldn't be any blind spots. But you'd be wrong about that. Because the roof stacks up at the back, it virtually eliminates my entire view out of the back. If there was a car behind me right now, heck, if there were a Ford F-150 Raptor behind me, I probably wouldn't see it because that roof is blocking my entire rear view. And back onto the subject of the scuttle shake with this car, because it is super noticeable. If you just look at the rear view mirror and hit the gas like so, you notice that the entire back end of the car flexes. And you know how I said I wouldn't be able to see the F-150 behind me? Well, for a brief moment while accelerating, the car is flexing so I can actually see the headlights behind me just a little bit. And then as soon as I let off, now I can't see it again. That just shows that the structural rigidity of this car is seriously lacking. And I think that the roof is just a microcosm of some of the other things that are wrong with this Mini Cooper. I mentioned that there's no blind spot monitoring on a $45,000 car. There's no surround view camera, making it difficult to park despite its small size. Remember, you can't see out of it. There's no adaptive cruise control. There's just so many things that you don't get here on this Mini Cooper that make it a poor value compared to its rival. This car is $45,000 as we have it optioned, and despite it being a decently fun driving experience, I would be having more fun in a cheaper Mazda Miata, Volkswagen Golf GTI, Camaro, Mustang. There's just so many cars that are cheaper and more fun that I think that the fun to drive value proposition of this Cooper is completely non-existent. Safety is not a fad, Mini. All of that stuff should be standard. If Toyota can do it, you can do it too. So now we've pulled over to check out the Mini Convertible's interior, but before we do, now is a great time to remind you to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read my full review on the Mini Convertible John Cooper Works, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. Now that we've checked out that the driving experience doesn't really feel like it's worth $45,000, we've got to ask whether or not the interior does. The materials are kind of a mixed bag. We've got some very nice materials here. Remember that Mini is built by BMW, so we do have some similar technology and materials that we will see in the lower end BMW models, but there are some materials here that just don't feel up to that price. We've got soft touch all around, like it's this sort of rubberized material, but I don't think it feels like $45,000. I think the nicest Mazdas have just as nice, if not better, of an interior than this Mini. Now, the best part about this interior by far is the seats. Since we have the John Cooper Works version of the convertible, we've got John Cooper Works badges everywhere, including on the headrests here. The seats are super bolstered. I love how they feel. They're very comfortable as well. We've got sort of this leather suede combination as part of an iconic package on this model. They feel very premium and they look very premium as well, although even the seats have some faults as well, because although they're heated and they do get extremely hot, they are not ventilated. In fact, you cannot get ventilated seats anywhere across the entire Mini lineup. And even though this car costs $45,000 and we have all of the optional packages, the seats are manually adjustable. You cannot get power seats on the Mini Convertible. And at this point, I gotta harp a little bit more about the value in this car, because a lot of the things I've mentioned so far are not even standard on the John Cooper Works, which starts at $39,900. The iconic package that I mentioned adds $6,000 to the price for things like keyless access, the heated seats, a heated steering wheel, Harman Kardon audio, dual zone climate control, and power folding mirrors. How is all of that not standard on a $40,000 car already? You have to go to $45,000. Again, the value is just not here. The technology is at least pretty good. We've got this 8.8-inch touchscreen that looks smaller than it is because it's wrapped around this big giant bezel here. You have this weird light here that does various different things. So if you adjust the volume, it kind of lights up in different colors. It's a little bit gimmicky, as is the infotainment itself. We have a similar iDrive style controller like what you would get on a BMW, because of course BMW owns Mini. It's a little bit low and awkwardly placed here in the center console. We do have Apple CarPlay wirelessly, which is nice, but it is not standard. Even though it's standard on a Toyota Corolla, you do not get that standard, which is just a little bit annoying on this screen. And when I put it in reverse, you get a regular backup camera, no 360-degree camera. Oh, and by the way, the iDrive control knob scrolls the wrong way. I'm here on this ribbon right now and I want to go down. You have to move it to the left. In what English-speaking universe is left down? That's just weird integration, Mini. As for the practicality, the Mini is slightly better than something like a Mazda Miata because it has back seats. Although, as we'll see, I'm gonna sit behind myself here. I don't have a lot of knee room. If the roof were up, I would not have a lot of headroom, and I certainly don't have a lot of shoulder room here. And it's a similar story when you talk about the trunk. The trunk situation on this car is a bit awkward because on the regular hardtop Cooper, you get a normal hatchback. On the convertible, you get almost like a pickup truck style tailgate, which is a little bit weird. Now you can see that the opening here is not very large. You can make it a little bit larger using these weird easy load handles. So you have to unhook them on each side. Now I can lift up this convertible top, and now I can put down the easy load so I can have a little bit larger of an open area. But as you can see, this trunk is not very big even with that up. And if I don't plan on using the convertible top, I can also lift up this little storage area to get just a little bit more storage here. I can also undo these latches, so now I can fold the seats down and get a little bit more space that way as well. But again, I think the practicality here is very limited. Let's wrap up with the exterior, where Mini has made some subtle changes without changing their car's iconic design. This is a lot like Porsche does with the 911. They change little things, but they don't change the overall image of the car. So we've got this new island blue color that I kind of like, although I don't think it pairs very well with the red that we have here on this car. It looks very cartoonish. You must be a huge fan of Spider-Man to get it in this color combo. Luckily, you can get the mirrors and other accents in different colors. There are some major changes here at the front, including these new LED headlights. We've got a new grille design that looks a little bit chipmunky. We've got these big air intakes down here. No fog lights, which is kind of an interesting change. And of course, we have the John Cooper Works, so we have these cool surfboard badges all over the exterior of the car. Moving on to the side, we have these new 18-inch wheel pattern that I'm not a huge fan of. You can see that they're a convex shape, meaning they kind of bulge out from the side. That's gonna make them perfect when you're trying to parallel park. You're gonna probably scrape one of these wheels because remember, this car does not have a 360-degree camera. Moving along to the back, we have some classic Mini styling elements like the unfinished gas cap right here that's very easy to access. And I will say, I do like the way this car looks more in the back than I do from the front. We've got these cool Union Jack style taillights here. We've got blacked out Mini badges as well. And I think the center mounted exhaust on the John Cooper Works model looks very cool. I really wanted to say I enjoyed this John Cooper Works Mini convertible, but for $45,000 as tested, it just feels like a disappointment at the price. $10,000 less than this, you could get a Mazda Miata. And if you absolutely need a back seat, just go for the Ford Mustang or Chevy Camaro. You could save $6,000 and just get the hardtop version of this car, but then you're comparing it against much cheaper hot hatchbacks like the Hyundai Veloster N, Volkswagen Golf GTI. Oh, and let's not forget, there's a new Honda Civic Type R coming. If you absolutely are dead set on getting a Mini convertible, here's my recommendation. Just get the 3-cylinder base model. This isn't that fast anyway, and the John Cooper Works parts with that sloppy convertible top just go together like peanut butter and steak. It's not a very good combo. The base Mini convertible only will cost you $28,000. You'll save 11 grand over the most basic John Cooper Works version, or you could always just remember my best advice ever, Miata, always the answer.